The planet Zithera was a place of awe and fear in the galaxy. Its skies glowed with shades of violet and gold, and massive cities floated above the surface, powered by technology centuries ahead of most known civilizations. The planet was ruled by King Vorin, a leader whose strength and wisdom had earned him respect across the stars. Yet in the royal palace, whispers of disappointment lingered. The king's daughter, Princess Lyra, was considered the weakest member of the royal family. Lyra had never matched the strength or skill of her peers. While alien children her age could lift heavy weapons and execute complex combat techniques effortlessly, Lyra struggled. Her arms shook when lifting the lightest weapons, and her movements were often slow and hesitant. The court quietly mocked her, and even servants avoided mentioning her name out of fear of the noble's scorn. King Vorin, though stern and demanding, loved his daughter deeply. But he could not hide his frustration. "She cannot lead," he murmured to his advisors one evening. "She cannot even defend herself." It was during this time that news arrived from distant stars. A human named Alex Mercer had gained fame as a soldier and trainer. He had retired from the Earth Defense Forces and was now traveling across the galaxy, known for turning ordinary soldiers into elite warriors. His reputation was unusual. Humans were considered weak compared to alien species, but Alex had a talent for strategy, tactics, and teaching strength beyond the physical. The king called for Alex immediately. When Alex arrived, he stood in the palace hall, observing the grandiosity around him. The ceiling towered high, adorned with holographic tapestries showing the king's victories in battle. Aliens of various shapes and sizes lined the hall, their eyes filled with skepticism at the arrival of a human. King Vorin's voice was firm. "Alex Mercer, you are here because my daughter is deemed weak. Teach her strength or you will fail." Alex smiled slightly, unfazed. "Your Majesty, I do not believe in weakness. I believe in potential. If your daughter is willing, she can achieve more than anyone imagines." The king narrowed his eyes. "Potential is not enough. The galaxy does not forgive weakness." Alex nodded. "I understand. Then I will begin at once." That afternoon, Alex met Lyra for the first time. She was smaller than most aliens her age, with delicate limbs and wide, intelligent eyes. Her hair shimmered silver under the sunlight filtering through the palace windows. Despite her gentle appearance, there was a spark in her gaze, one that hinted at curiosity and resilience. "Hello, Princess," Alex said with a warm tone. "I am Alex. I'm here to help you grow stronger." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. I am not strong," she admitted softly. "I cannot even lift the training sword." Alex shook his head. "Strength is not only in the body, it is in the mind, the heart, and how you face challenges. If you are willing to try, we will begin." The first training session was difficult. Lyra struggled to lift even the smallest training weapons. Her movements were uncoordinated, and she stumbled more than once. The palace instructors, watching from the sidelines, whispered doubts. "The human cannot help her," one muttered. "She will never be a warrior." Alex ignored them. He knelt beside Lyra and demonstrated simple techniques. "Do not try to fight with power," he said. "Use speed, precision, and understanding. Watch your opponent, anticipate their moves, and then act." Lyra watched closely, her eyes following Alex's every movement. She tried again, moving slowly, mimicking his motions. At first it was awkward. She stumbled, nearly dropping the sword, but Alex encouraged her. "Good, try again. Each time you fall, you learn something new. That is progress." By the end of the day, Lyra could lift the sword steadily and even block a strike from Alex's staff. It was a small victory, but to her it felt monumental. She smiled for the first time in months, a smile that was bright and genuine. Over the next few weeks, training became a daily routine. Alex introduced her to human techniques, exercises focusing on balance, agility, and strategy rather than raw strength. He taught her to analyze opponents, predict their actions, and exploit weaknesses. Lyra absorbed everything eagerly. She spent hours studying human combat philosophy, reading texts Alex had brought from Earth, and practicing relentlessly. Her body grew stronger, yes, but more importantly, her mind sharpened. She began to notice patterns in movements, anticipate attacks before they came, and act decisively. Her confidence grew, even as the court remained skeptical. One day, during a sparring session with the palace guards, something remarkable happened. Lyra faced a much larger alien guard, one of the strongest in the palace. Everyone expected her to fail. The guard swung a massive weapon toward her, and for a moment Lyra froze. But then she remembered Alex's teachings. Observe, anticipate, strike. She sidestepped, grabbed a weak point in the guard's stance, and used his momentum to unbalance him. Within moments, she had brought him to the ground without harm, simply by using intelligence and technique. The hall went silent. Even the skeptical nobles could not deny what they had seen. The king, standing at the edge of the training arena, felt a mixture of surprise and pride. His daughter, the one he had once thought hopeless, had just demonstrated real skill. That was incredible, one court official whispered. King Voron's gaze softened. Perhaps we underestimated her, he admitted. Lyra, panting but exhilarated, looked at Alex. Did I do it right? She asked. Alex smiled. Perfectly. And this is only the beginning. Despite the progress, challenges remained. The court was divided. Some nobles supported Lyra, hoping she would become a strong heir, while others resented the human influence. Rumors began to spread across Zythera. A human was teaching the princess, and strange ideas about strategy and mental strength were changing her. Some whispered that this was dangerous, even unnatural. But Lyra did not care. She had found something far more important than approval. She had confidence in herself, a belief that she could grow beyond limits. Alex noticed it too. You are not weak, Lyra, he said one evening after training. You are learning to become someone no one else could imagine. Lyra's smile was quiet but determined. Then I will not stop. I want to be strong. I want to prove that I can protect myself. And my people, Alex nodded. Good, that is the first step. Strength is more than muscles. It is courage, determination, and the will to keep moving forward, even when everyone doubts you. That night, as Lyra looked out over the floating cities of Zythera, she felt a new sense of purpose. The stars above seemed brighter, the possibilities endless. For the first time, she imagined herself not as the weak princess, but as someone who could change the fate of her planet. Meanwhile, Alex reviewed her progress. In his experience, he had trained soldiers from countless species, but Lyra was different. Her intelligence, adaptability, and determination were exceptional. She has the potential to be more than a warrior, he thought. She could be a leader, a protector, maybe even the strongest being in the galaxy. Unseen by both of them, whispers of Lyra's progress began spreading beyond the palace walls. Traders, travelers, and even spies carried stories of the human and the princess who was defying expectations. Across Zythera, people began to wonder, could this small, seemingly weak alien girl truly become a force to be reckoned with? The answer, though no one yet knew it, was slowly taking shape in the palace training hall, under the careful guidance of a human named Alex Mercer, and in the heart of a princess who refused to remain weak. The journey had begun. Weeks had passed since Alex began training Princess Lyra. The palace of Zythera buzzed with curiosity and quiet tension. Nobles whispered behind closed doors, discussing the strange progress of the princess. While she was still smaller and physically weaker than most, something about her had changed. There was a new confidence in her movements, a spark in her eyes that no one could ignore. Alex noticed it first during morning training. Lyra had been practicing a series of complex maneuvers he taught her, a combination of human agility exercises and alien combat techniques. At first, her motions were clumsy, almost laughable, but now she executed them fluidly, moving with a grace and precision that even seasoned warriors admired. Again, Alex said, standing at a distance with his arms crossed. But this time, anticipate what I will do before I do it. Lyra nodded, her eyes narrowing. She watched Alex carefully as he approached. Unlike the earlier days when she reacted slowly, now she moved preemptively, sidestepping his strikes and countering with precise touches that forced him to step back. Alex smiled. Excellent. You're not just reacting anymore, you're predicting. That is the mark of a strategist, not just a fighter. The court observed the session with a mix of disbelief and fascination. Some nobles whispered that human methods were strange, maybe even dangerous, but the results were undeniable. Lyra was improving faster than anyone could have imagined. After training, Lyra approached Alex, sweat dripping down her forehead. I don't feel stronger yet, she said quietly. I still cannot lift the heavy swords like the other warriors. Alex shook his head. Strength is not only measured in how much you can lift. It is measured in how you use what you have. You have something others do not: insight, speed, and adaptability. That makes you powerful in ways many aliens cannot understand. Lyra considered his words. In a world where physical strength was often seen as the only measure of worth, Alex's idea of power was new and inspiring. She began to think differently about herself, realizing that maybe being strong did not always mean being the biggest or the strongest in appearance. One day, Alex decided it was time for a field exercise. Instead of the palace training hall, he led Lyra to a dense forest outside the city. The area was filled with towering trees, uneven terrain, and hidden obstacles, perfect for testing her agility and strategy. You must navigate this forest as if you are being pursued, Alex explained. But remember, this is not about rushing. Think, observe, and use your environment to your advantage. Lyra nodded and began. She moved carefully, ducking under low branches, stepping lightly on uneven ground. She noticed small details. A branch poised to snap, a shadow moving in the corner of her vision, the subtle sounds of small creatures scurrying through the forest. Using these clues, she anticipated imaginary threats and maneuvered with confidence. Alex followed silently, watching her closely. "You're learning to see more than just what is in front of you," he said aloud. "You're seeing possibilities. That is true power." By the time she reached the center of the forest, Lyra was exhausted but exhilarated. She had not only completed the challenge, but had done so with finesse and intelligence. That evening, the palace was filled with more whispers than usual. Reports of Lyra's improved skill had reached alien trainers who came to observe. One of them, a tall and muscular alien named Draylock, challenged her. "You think you can defeat me?" Draylock sneered. "You are still small, still weak." Lyra remained calm. "Strength is not just what you see," she replied. The duel began. Draylock lunged with incredible force, swinging a massive staff. Most would have relied on sheer strength to counter him, but Lyra did not. She sidestepped, ducked, and maneuvered around him, carefully analyzing his movements. She noted his reliance on power over speed, his predictable patterns, and his overconfidence. Then, using a combination of quick strikes and clever positioning, she disarmed him without causing harm. Draylock stumbled, shocked that a smaller, weaker opponent had bested him. The crowd erupted into whispers of astonishment. Alex stepped forward. "Do you see?" he said. "Strength is not just muscle. It is mind, heart, and will. Lyra has all of these in abundance." Lyra's heart swelled. For the first time, she felt truly capable. She realized that she had something no one else had, the ability to turn her perceived weakness into strength. But her journey was not without challenge. Some nobles grew jealous of her progress and whispered doubts to the king. "This human is dangerous," one said. "He teaches her methods we cannot control. What if she becomes too unpredictable?" King Voran, however, could not deny the changes in his daughter. He observed her quietly during training, noting her growing skill, her confidence, and her courage. The spark he had hoped to see in her was now aflame. As Lyra's skills grew, Alex introduced her to more advanced concepts. He taught her strategy in battle, negotiation, and leadership, explaining that true warriors do not rely only on fighting. They anticipate, adapt, and inspire others. Lyra absorbed every lesson. She practiced tirelessly, not only in the palace but in secret, exploring new techniques and improving her mind as well as her body. One evening, after a long day of training, Alex and Lyra stood atop a cliff overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in fiery orange and purple. "You have come far," Alex said, "but there is more. Strength is not only personal. It is also the power to protect others, to lead them, and to make choices that others cannot." Lyra nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "I will learn. I will become someone my people can be proud of." Days turned into weeks, and Lyra continued to grow. She learned to move silently, react quickly, and think 2 steps ahead of her opponents. The palace guards began to notice and respect her. Even some of the nobles who doubted her started to reconsider. Then came the first real test outside controlled training, a simulation of a hostile invasion. Alex arranged for mercenaries to stage a mock attack on the palace. Lyra had to defend herself and lead a small team to protect key areas. At first, she was nervous. The scenario felt real, and she could hear the simulated cries for help echoing through the halls. But she remembered Alex's teachings. She analyzed the threats, directed her team, and used clever tactics to outmaneuver the attackers. She coordinated defensive strategies, setting traps and guiding her team with confidence. By the end of the exercise, Lyra had not only succeeded, but had impressed everyone present. Her abilities were no longer surprising, they were remarkable. Alex watched her quietly afterward. "You have grown beyond what I expected," he said. "You are becoming someone extraordinary." Lyra smiled, tired but proud. "I feel it strong. Not just in my body, but in my mind. I want to learn more, to keep growing." The whispers in the palace began to shift. Where once there was doubt and ridicule, now there was curiosity and awe. People started to speak of Lyra not as the weak princess, but as someone different, special, and capable of great things. But even as Lyra improved, Alex knew the real challenge was yet to come. The galaxy was not kind, and threats loomed beyond Zithra's borders. To survive and thrive, Lyra would need to grow not just in strength but in strategy, courage, and wisdom. That night, Lyra stood on her balcony staring at the stars. She thought of Alex's words. Strength was not only in muscles but in mind, heart, and will. She clenched her fists, determined. One day she would be ready for any challenge the galaxy threw at her. And as the twin suns disappeared beyond the horizon, a quiet promise formed in her heart. She would not remain the weak princess. She would become someone the galaxy would never forget. News of Princess Lyra's growing skill spread quickly across Zithra and beyond. Rumors of a small, seemingly weak princess who could now match and even surpass trained warriors began reaching neighboring planets. Some were impressed, others suspicious, and a few even alarmed. Across the galaxy, her name started to carry weight. King Voran, now proud but cautious, decided it was time for a test. He announced a royal tournament, a grand event inviting elite warriors from various planets, including Zithra's own top fighters. The tournament was designed to challenge strength, skill, intelligence, and leadership. But more importantly, it would test Lyra in a public setting where the eyes of the galaxy could see her true potential. The day of the tournament arrived. The arena was massive, a combination of floating platforms, defensive barriers, and strategic obstacles. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the stands, their eyes fixed on the participants. The air buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Lyra stood at the edge of the arena, dressed in light, flexible armor that allowed freedom of movement. Alex stood beside her, calm and confident as ever. "Remember what we practiced," he said quietly. "Observe, anticipate, adapt." "Trust yourself," Lyra nodded. Her heart raced, but her mind was sharp. She had trained for this moment, and she was ready to show what she had learned. The first rounds of the tournament were simple compared to what awaited her. Lyra's first opponents were palace guards, skilled but predictable. She moved with precision, dodging, countering, and using clever maneuvers to outmatch them. Each victory was clean, non-lethal, and strategic, earning quiet applause from the crowd. What caught everyone's attention was how differently she fought. While other warriors relied on raw strength, Lyra used her mind. She created openings, anticipated attacks, and adapted her techniques to the opponent's style. It was unlike anything the spectators had seen. After her initial victories, she faced the first alien champion, Torvak, a hulking warrior from a distant planet known for his brute strength. He towered over Lyra, his muscles bulging and his armor gleaming under the arena lights. Many in the stands doubted the princess could survive the encounter. Torvak laughed, a deep, rumbling sound. "You are tiny, little princess. You will fall before me." Lyra did not respond with words. Instead, she observed. She noticed his overconfidence, the slight lag in his movements when he swung his massive weapon, and the way his eyes occasionally flicked toward the crowd instead of the fight. When the battle began, Torvak charged, swinging with enormous force. Lyra ducked, rolled, and used the momentum of his attack to push him off balance. She did not strike with brute force. She struck strategically, aiming for points that would slow him down. The crowd gasped as the weak princess maneuvered Torvak into a position where he could not attack without overextending. With a final, clever move, she disarmed him without hurting him and caused him to stumble. Silence filled the arena. Even seasoned warriors were stunned. Lyra had won, not by strength, but by intelligence, speed, and careful strategy. Alex nodded slightly, proud. "You are learning fast," he whispered. "Remember, true strength is in using your abilities wisely." Lyra's confidence grew with each victory. But the tournament was not just about combat. King Voran had included challenges of strategy and leadership. Participants were asked to lead teams, make quick decisions, and solve complex problems under pressure. During one challenge, Lyra was given a group of inexperienced fighters from different planets. Their task was to defend a simulated city from an imaginary invasion. At first, the group was disorganized. Members argued, panicked, and made mistakes. But Lyra stayed calm. Focus, she instructed. Observe the situation. Use your strengths wisely. Work together and you will succeed. Her team listened. They followed her instructions, coordinated movements, and executed clever strategies she had taught them. The simulated invasion was a success and the crowd erupted in applause. For the first time, people began to whisper not about her weakness but about her brilliance. The final round of the tournament was the greatest test of all. Lyra faced the champion of a rival empire, a towering alien named Gorath, who was famous across galaxies for his strength and ruthlessness. Many assumed this would be the end for the princess. Gorath sneered as he entered the arena. "You are far from ready, little one," he said. "The galaxy has never seen such a display of foolishness." Lyra's heart pounded, but she remained composed. She remembered Alex's teachings: stay calm, analyze, and use every advantage. The battle began. Gorath's strength was overwhelming, and his attacks came faster than any Lyra had faced. She dodged, rolled, and countered, using her opponent's momentum against him. But Gorath adapted quickly, forcing Lyra to rely on her mind more than her body. She noticed a pattern. Gorath always left his left side slightly exposed after a strong strike. Using that knowledge, Lyra feigned a misstep, luring him into a position where he could not recover quickly. Then, with precise timing, she struck, forcing Gorath to stumble. The audience was on the edge of their seats. The tiny princess was outmaneuvering a giant champion. No one had seen such strategy, speed, and precision in one fighter. Finally, Lyra executed a move Alex had taught her. She used her agility and intelligence to turn Gorath's strength against him, trapping him in a position where he could not continue attacking. Gorath admitted defeat not through injury, but through clever combat. The arena erupted. Aliens cheered. Whispers turned into shouts of astonishment. The weak princess had proven herself in the most public, most challenging test imaginable. King Voran watched silently, a mixture of pride and amazement on his face. He had doubted her, worried for her safety, and feared the judgment of the galaxy. But now he could no longer deny the truth. His daughter was extraordinary. Alex approached Lyra, his expression calm, but filled with pride. "You see, Lyra, strength is not just physical. You have grown beyond what anyone could have expected." Lyra smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. "I did it. I really did it. But this is just the beginning, isn't it?" Alex nodded. "Yes, the galaxy is bigger than this arena. There are more challenges ahead, more enemies and more opportunities. But you now know what you are capable of. That knowledge will guide you." As the sun set over Zithera, the princess stood tall, no longer just a young girl in the shadow of her peers. She had faced the eyes of the galaxy, the strongest warriors, and emerged victorious. Her mind, her strategy, and her courage had shown everyone that true strength comes from more than muscle. It comes from heart, mind, and will. Even in the palace, whispers continued. "The human's training worked," some said. "She is unlike any warrior we have seen." Others, more cautious, muttered, "We must watch her carefully. Her strength is growing too fast." Lyra, however, paid little attention. Her focus was on learning, improving, and preparing for the future. She knew that this tournament was a step, not the end. There were greater challenges, threats beyond the galaxy, and missions that would test every skill she had learned. That night, Lyra and Alex walked through the quiet palace gardens. Stars twinkled in the clear sky above. Lyra looked at Alex. "Do you think I can truly become the strongest in the galaxy?" she asked softly. Alex looked at her seriously. "I believe you can. But strength is not just about defeating others. It is about protecting, inspiring, and leading. You have the potential, Lyra. It is up to you to realize it fully." Lyra's eyes shone with determination. "Then I will. I will become strong, not just for myself, but for everyone who believes in me." Alex smiled. "Good. That is the spirit of a true warrior and leader. The galaxy has never seen anything like you. and one day it will remember your name." As they walked back to the palace, the city lights glimmered below them. Lyra felt a sense of purpose she had never felt before. The journey had begun, and she knew that every lesson, every challenge, and every victory would lead her closer to becoming the strongest being in the galaxy. After the tournament, Princess Lyra's fame spread across Zythera and the neighboring star systems. She was no longer seen as the weak princess. She was a symbol of hope, skill, and intelligence. People admired her courage while her enemies began to take notice. Among the whispers in the palace halls, a darker murmur began. Some nobles and rival planets feared her growing power. King Vorin had grown confident in his daughter's abilities, but even he could not ignore the increasing political tension. Some of his advisors warned of plots and secret alliances forming in the shadows. The princess's new strength made her a threat to those who wished to control Zythera. One morning, as Lyra practiced in the palace training grounds with Alex, a palace messenger approached in a hurry. "Princess Lyra, a delegation from the planet Cravath requests an urgent meeting. They bring news of threats against Zythera." Lyra paused. "Threats? What kind?" The messenger shook his head. "They did not say, only that it concerns your safety and the stability of the throne." Alex's eyes narrowed. "This could be a diplomatic test or a trap. We must be cautious." Lyra nodded, her mind already racing through possible scenarios. She had learned that strength alone would not be enough. She would need strategy, observation, and careful judgment to navigate this challenge. The delegation arrived the next day. Their leader, a tall alien named Sirac, bowed deeply to the king. "Your Majesty," he said, "we come with news. Certain factions within Zythera and outside have plotted to seize control. They plan to remove Princess Lyra from the throne, believing she is inexperienced and vulnerable." King Vorin's jaw tightened. "How can they dare?" Sirac spoke calmly. "We have intelligence that suggests a coup is being prepared. The princess may be lured into a trap during an upcoming diplomatic mission. It is imperative she be cautious." Lyra felt a mix of fear and determination. She knew that this was more than a challenge of combat. It was a test of her mind and leadership. She turned to Alex. "What should we do?" Alex's expression was calm but serious. "We must act carefully. We will train, plan, and anticipate every move, and we must prepare for the unexpected. This is a test of strategy as much as skill." Over the next days, Lyra underwent intensive preparation. Alex taught her advanced techniques in espionage, counter-surveillance, and tactical negotiation. She learned to read subtle cues in speech, body language, and even in the environment. Every detail could be a clue, and every misstep could be dangerous. Lyra also trained physically, improving speed, reflexes, and agility. But more importantly, she honed her decision-making skills, learning to remain calm under pressure and to act decisively when others might hesitate. Finally, the day of the diplomatic mission arrived. Lyra traveled with a small contingent of trusted palace guards and Alex, heading to a neutral planet where a council of neighboring planets would convene. As soon as they arrived, Lyra sensed tension. The council members were polite, but their eyes were sharp and their conversations were full of subtle hints and warnings. Alex leaned close. "Watch carefully. Every word, every movement, there may be hidden threats." Sure enough, during the meeting, a faction within the council tried to manipulate discussions, attempting to isolate Zythera and make the king appear weak. Lyra observed calmly, remembering every lesson Alex had taught her. She spoke carefully, using diplomacy and intelligence to diffuse tension and redirect the council's focus toward cooperation. However, the real test came after the council meeting. As they prepared to return to Zythera, a group of mercenaries attempted to ambush the princess and her team. Lyra's training kicked in immediately. She assessed the attackers, noted their positions, and devised a quick plan. Using agility and clever maneuvers, she led her team through the ambush, turning the attackers' strength against them. Each movement was precise, each decision calculated, and within moments the threat was neutralized without severe harm. Alex watched silently, impressed. "You handled that perfectly. Not only your skill, but your leadership saved lives today." Lyra felt a mixture of relief and pride. She realized that this mission was more than a test of strength. It was a test of her ability to protect and lead others. Back in Zythera, the king convened an emergency meeting. He praised Lyra's actions, acknowledging that her growth went beyond what he had imagined. "My daughter is no longer just a princess," he said. "She is a protector, a strategist, and a leader. The galaxy will remember her strength." But not all were pleased. Some nobles, jealous of Lyra's accomplishments and fearful of losing influence, began plotting in secret. They conspired with rival planets, hoping to create chaos and undermine her authority. Lyra knew she had to remain vigilant. Strength alone could not guarantee safety. She needed intelligence, allies, and foresight. Over the following weeks, Lyra faced numerous challenges: sabotaged supplies, misleading information, and minor attacks designed to test her reactions. Each time she applied what she had learned from Alex, outsmarting her enemies without unnecessary conflict. Her reputation grew not only as a skilled warrior but also as a wise and resourceful leader. One night, as she trained alone under the twin moons of Zithera, Alex approached. "The real test is just beginning," he said. "Enemies you cannot see. Decisions with consequences you cannot predict. You must always be ready." Lyra paused, catching her breath. "I understand. I will not fail. I have learned much, but I know there is more to learn." Alex nodded. "Good. Remember, power comes from knowledge, skill, and courage combined. And you have all three," Lyra smiled. "Then I will be ready for whatever comes next. I will protect my people, and I will show the galaxy that strength comes in many forms." The shadows of rebellion did not disappear. Plots continued to form, but Lyra's wisdom and courage allowed her to navigate them carefully. She learned to trust her instincts, use her mind as much as her body, and turn potential threats into lessons for growth. Her victories were not only in battle but in the hearts of those who witnessed her leadership. Guards, advisors, and citizens alike began to look up to her, inspired by her courage and skill. Even nobles who once doubted her started to reconsider, recognizing that Lyra was a princess capable of leading Zithera into a new era. By the end of this period, Lyra had proven herself against plots, treachery, and political intrigue. She had grown stronger not only in combat but in wisdom, strategy, and leadership. The galaxy began to whisper of her name with respect and awe. One evening, as she walked through the palace gardens with Alex, she looked at the stars, shining brilliantly over Zithera. "The galaxy is full of challenges," she said softly. "But I feel ready. I want to face them, not just for myself, but for everyone who believes in me." Alex smiled. "You have grown into someone extraordinary, Lyra. The galaxy will soon see that strength is more than muscle. It is courage, wisdom, and the will to protect others. And you possess all of these in abundance." Lyra's eyes shone with determination. She knew the shadows of rebellion would continue, that new threats and challenges awaited. But she also knew she was no longer the weak princess of the past. She was a warrior, a leader, and a force the galaxy could not ignore. And as the twin moons reflected light across the palace gardens, Lyra silently promised herself she would continue to grow, to learn, and to protect her people. One day, she would become the strongest being in the galaxy, not only feared for her skill but respected for her heart, wisdom, and courage. The journey was far from over, but Lyra had already taken steps no one had thought possible. Under Alex's guidance and her own determination, the Princess of Zithera was no longer weak. She was a rising force, ready to face the trials of the galaxy and overcome them with skill, strategy, and heart. Months had passed since Princess Lyra had faced the shadows of rebellion. Her reputation had grown across the galaxy, not only as a skilled warrior but also as a wise leader. Reports of her victories and clever strategies reached distant star systems. Her name was spoken with respect and curiosity. Some saw her as a rising protector of peace, while others viewed her as a threat to their ambitions. King Vorn watched proudly as his daughter matured into a true leader. "Lyra has grown beyond my expectations," he said to Alex one morning. "I feared for her, doubted her strength, but she has shown that courage, intelligence, and heart are as powerful as any weapon." Alex nodded. "She has trained hard and faced challenges that would have broken others. She has proven herself in ways that no one expected. But even as peace settled over Zithera, Lyra knew greater trials awaited. The galaxy was vast, full of warriors, rulers, and civilizations with power rivaling her own. To truly become the strongest, she would have to face threats far beyond the palace walls. The first challenge came from a coalition of legendary warriors and warlords who saw Zithra's rising influence as a threat. They sent an envoy demanding surrender, confident that no princess, no matter how skilled, could match their combined forces. Lyra, prepared for such a challenge, convened her closest advisors and Alex. "We cannot fight them all directly," she said calmly. "But we can use strategy, coordination, and every advantage we have to protect our people and demonstrate our strength." Alex smiled. "Exactly. Strength alone is never enough. Intelligence and teamwork turn even small forces into unbeatable ones." Lyra led a carefully planned campaign across multiple star systems. She coordinated defenses, anticipated enemy moves, and used unconventional tactics taught by Alex to outsmart the coalition. In each engagement, her intelligence and precision allowed her to turn situations in her favor, even when outnumbered. Her victories were not brute force battles. She relied on speed, clever positioning, and anticipation, striking where enemies were weakest and avoiding unnecessary destruction. With each successful mission, her legend grew. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. The Princess of Zithra was unmatched in skill and wisdom. During one critical mission, Lyra faced the coalition's greatest champion, Varrock the Titan, a warrior known for his enormous size and unmatched strength. Most assumed Lyra would fail, but she had learned to combine everything Alex had taught her: strategy, agility, and precision. The battle was intense. Varrock's strikes were powerful and relentless, yet Lyra moved with calculated precision, dodging and redirecting his momentum. She analyzed his every movement, noting the smallest openings. When the moment was right, she used a combination of agility and clever tactics to immobilize him, forcing a surrender without causing serious harm. The galaxy was stunned. A single princess, once deemed weak, had bested the strongest warrior of a powerful coalition. Her legend spread farther than any story before, but her challenges were not only physical. Lyra now had to lead a growing alliance of planets and civilizations, uniting them against potential threats. Her diplomatic skills were tested, as she negotiated peace, resolved disputes, and inspired confidence among leaders who had once doubted her. One evening, during a council of allied leaders, Lyra addressed them with calm authority. "We are stronger together than apart. Our people look to us for guidance and protection. We must act with wisdom, courage, and integrity. Strength alone cannot unite the galaxy. It is our choices, our hearts, and our minds that will lead us to victory." Her words inspired those present. Leaders from multiple systems pledged loyalty and support, recognizing Lyra not only as a warrior but as a true leader. Meanwhile, Alex continued to guide her. "Lyra, you have grown far beyond my expectations. You have the strength, mind, and heart of someone who can change the galaxy." Lyra smiled. "I could not have done it without your guidance. You taught me to see beyond strength and to trust myself." With her forces united and her strategy flawless, Lyra faced the final test. A coalition of the galaxy's most powerful warlords launched a massive invasion aimed directly at Zithra. It was a threat unlike any she had faced before, a challenge that required every skill she had learned. Lyra analyzed the battlefield carefully. Using intelligence reports, observations of enemy movements, and her own instincts, she devised a plan. She deployed forces strategically, using traps, feints, and clever maneuvers to divide and weaken the enemy. At key moments, she led small strike teams herself, using speed and precision to dismantle powerful units. The battle raged across space and planets, but Lyra's strategy was flawless. She anticipated every move, adapted to every change, and inspired her warriors to act with confidence and coordination. Slowly, the invading forces were pushed back, their leaders captured or forced to retreat. When the final enemy surrendered, the galaxy witnessed a moment no one could have imagined. Princess Lyra, once called weak, now stood as the strongest being in the galaxy, not through brute force alone, but through courage, intelligence, and the will to protect others. King Vorin, watching from the palace balcony, felt a deep sense of pride. "My daughter, she is extraordinary. She is more than a warrior. She is a protector, a leader, a hero." Lyra returned to Zithra as a hero. Citizens lined the streets to cheer, and allies from across the galaxy came to pay respect. She had proven herself not only in battle but in leadership, diplomacy, and strategy. Her journey from a weak, underestimated princess to the strongest being alive was complete. Alex stood by her side, proud but humble. "You have done what no one thought possible, Lyra. You have changed the galaxy's perception of strength. You are an inspiration to all." Lyra looked out at the horizon, the stars shining brightly above Zithera. She reflected on the journey, the doubts, the struggles, the training, and the battles. Every step had shaped her into someone capable of leading and protecting countless lives. "I am ready," she said quietly. "Ready to face whatever comes next. Ready to lead, to protect, and to ensure that strength is measured not just in power but in heart, mind, and will." The galaxy would never forget her name. Princess Lyra of Zithera, the one once called weak, had become a symbol of hope, courage, and unparalleled strength. Her story proved that true power was not simply physical. It came from determination, intelligence, and the desire to use strength for the greater good. As the twin suns set over Zithera, Lyra stood tall on the palace balcony, her eyes fixed on the stars. The journey had been long, but her growth was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, her legend would inspire generations, and with Alex's guidance and her own resolve, Lyra knew she could face any challenge, anywhere, anytime. The weak princess was gone. In her place stood the strongest warrior in the galaxy, a leader whose courage, wisdom, and heart would shine for all time.